ايه هي ايجيبت مايجريشن بالنسبه لك وعايز توصل منها لايه عموما يعني. انا بيرسون دايما مبسوط جدا بالمشروع ده واي اولويز يعني تراي. ما خلصتش الحاجات اللي عليه كلها، بس عارف انت فاتح تابات تابز مختلفه عن الحاجات اللي هي حسيت ان هي انترستنج وعايز اقرا عنها اكتر. بس حابب اعرف انت بقى كشخص اللي عملت ايجيبت مايجريشن ده، ايه هو اصلا ايجيبت مايجريشن عايز توصل ليه؟
Egypt migrations, بص أقول لك حاجة, it's not complicated. All it is a way to gather the community, preserve its history, educate the future generations and the outside society about who Egypt and its migrants are. And أولاً أنا لما بدأت الدكتوراه ما كنتش لاقي أي معلومات تساعدني إن أنا أكتب البحث بتاعي. أنا دخلت رحت archives هنا في كندا وفي أمريكا, ورحت ببص في newspapers, historical newspapers, بدور على معلومات عن الأقباط والمصريين عامة المهاجرين, ومش قادر أوصل لحاجة قوي, ومش لاقي الناس أقعد أتكلم معاهم في my struggles وكده يعني. فبدأت حاجة اسمها in 2016 ال Coptic Canadian History Project. وال Coptic Canadian History Project can a way for me to begin to bring together people اللي working on similar subjects. و a way for me إن أنا الدوكيومنتس شوية اللي بدأت ألمهم من عيلة في مصر, من عيلة في كندا, من عيلة في أمريكا, إن أنا أقدر ألاقي طريقة إن أنا أجمع المعلومات دي و record it و preserve it somewhere عشان أسهل اللي هيجي بعدي. يعني أنا تعبت ودورت وقعدت سنتين بسافر ما بين مصر وكندا وأمريكا بدور على أوراق ومستندات وletters وrecordings وفيديوز, أي حاجة اللي هيجي. لميت حوالي 200 gigabytes of data.
Wow.
وأنا I felt like I was just an excavator at some point. يعني sometimes I didn't even need this stuff, بس أخدتها. أخدت يعني صور, يعني ما أخدتش الأوريجينالز بس أخدت صور. وsometimes أخدت originals, وبدأت أحط الحاجات دي في الأركايف, وعملت conference جمعت researchers working on Egypt and its Copts وكده. We met, we had a great time together for a day. We went out for dinner, we talked, and I found that people were very interested and very supportive of this. They were عايزين a way to talk to each other, to work together, to increase scholarship on this subject matter. For a long time, when I بخلص الدكتوراه, Coptic Canadian History Project was a big part of my world. Collecting material, depositing it in the archive, hosting conferences every year, producing a blog called The Digital Cafe that allows researchers and immigrants to write about their experiences. بعد كده, it reached a point where the Coptic Canadian History Project was too limiting. يعني it's Coptic, nobody else thinks that they belong to it. They can engage with it. يعني ساعات we see this all the time in Middle East studies, which Middle East studies is a huge field. Once you see the word Coptic, you walk away. You know, this is about the Copts. ملناش دعوة.
Yeah.
وكوبتك كنديان طبعا كان عندي ناس من امريكا, ناس من استراليا, ناس من مش عارف ايه, بيبعتوا لي يقولوا لي I want to contribute but I don't feel like this is for me. اوكي history project, اوكي عندك بقى sociologists وanthropologists وpolitical scientists ومش عارف ايه, انت this is the history project. طب خلاص اوكي, too many limitations.
بلمت نفسي ليه طيب؟
وطبعا عندك, طب اوكي انت بتتكلم عن الأقباط, بس the biggest problem ودي problem في مصر وبروبلم بره مصر وبروبلم في اكاديميا وبروبلم في public discourse وفي ميديا، ان احنا لما بنتكلم عن الاقباط بنتكلم عن الاقباط بس، الاقباط يعني عايشين لوحدهم كده، والاقباط اللي persecuted، الاقباط اللي هم ما عندهمش اي حاجه غير كنيستهم والبابا بتاعهم واعيادهم وبس.
ملهمش علاقه بقى بالحته اللي هم عايشين فيها اصلا.
بالظبط، والعلاقه ان هم مضطهدين. طيب على فكره دي مش الحياه بس بتاعت الاقباط، على فكره ده مش تاريخ الاقباط بس. يعني احنا كمصريين بلد مرت بقرف كتير وحاجات حلوه كتير، بلد عندها تاريخ غير الفرعوني، عندها تاريخ modern history. يعني احنا ما بنتكلمش كفايه عن اللي حصل في ال 19th century في ال 20th century في مصر. we should.
كل التركيز على زمان 7000 سنه.
النيوز ريبورترز لما يجوا يتكلموا عن الاقباط بيتكلموا عن هم الاقباط اللي بيأيدوا الحكومه، اللي بيأيدوا الجفرمنت عشان it offers them protection، عشان الاضطهاد العام اللي في البلد. على فكره في اقباط كتير قوي مش they do not like the way that the politics in the country is progressing. وفي اقباط بيمروا ب discrimination و alienation in society because of this perception imposed by Western journalists that the Copts support the regime blindly. فعندك ناس اللي secular أو Muslim أو what have you who are angry at the regime, who are upset for what the regime is doing to Egypt, who then take it out on the Copts because the Copts blindly follow the regime. That's what I read in the newspaper. So what's the reality? What's the world that we live in? Egypt migrations was a way to talk about Egypt, about Copts, Muslims, Greeks, Armenians, Jews, Italians, Syrians, Lebanese, people of different nationalities, of different religious backgrounds, of different ethnic and cultural practices, who once lived or continue to live in Egypt, who moved into, through, and out of Egypt, who we view Egypt as a space that has created opportunities and created limitations for people who have occupied that space at one time or another or continue to do so. And migrations, it's about movement.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily movement to Canada or movement to America. It's about movement. We all move. أنا مثلا زي ما قلت لك من شوية عيلتي من أسيوط. اوكي هم كانوا في أسيوط where they interacted with Greek merchants there who themselves were migrants, and then my grandfather and his brother moved to Alexandria in the 1920s. That was a migration from Upper Egypt to Alexandria. Alexandria was changing so much in the 1920s and 1930s because of migration into the country. And then my father and my mother chose to take their kids and to migrate out of Egypt. Our life is all about migration. We are always migrating.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're labor migrants. Like أنا مثلا, I have a job currently in Toronto. Great. But if I get a job in Vancouver, inshallah, I'll end up in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I've migrated. And so we're always moving and we're always adapting and our identities are always shifting. And Egypt migrations is a way to tell the stories of people, to tell the history, to preserve that history, and to also deal with the present realities, the impact that it has on people. And to hopefully, and this is the big goal for Egypt migrations, to change the way that we talk about Egypt and its populations. Yani, when you have these resources, عندك photos, letters, عندك documents, and government records, and anything and everything that has to do with Egyptian migrants and people's lives في مصر أو برا مصر, then you have a place for reporters, for journalists, for government officials writing policy reports. You have a place for people to actually learn more about the reality on the ground. يعني أنا من كام سنة, I think now maybe 3 years ago now, I wrote an article for مدى مصر. And I wrote it in a weekend. I was so angry.
No, what's right?
In a weekend, I was so angry because there were these portrayals in American newspapers of a violent attack that happened in Egypt. And the attack itself upset me, but the portrayals in American media upset me. These two-dimensional views of who the cops are and what their position in Egyptian society is. And I needed to respond. And I relied on my training. I relied on the material that I had seen, that I myself had dug through and worked with to write that. And so what if we make that all publicly available? أي حد ممكن يروح الاركايف أو يلاقي material online أو إنه يكتب أو contest, you challenge the dominant portrayals.
Yeah.
فأنا that if we're talking about like the ultimate goal of Egypt migrations, it is to train people, which we try to do through our internship and volunteer opportunities, to educate through events or even just face-to-face like we are now, or people who email and just have conversations, to change the narrative, to get people to think critically, to have access to materials, to have access to resources. See, the thing is, I don't think there is such a thing as like the unbiased observer. You know, we talk about historians, we talk about academics almost as if they are this external authority that exists beyond these communities. That's not the reality.
And stuff. Yeah.
No, that does not exist.
Yeah.
We all have a reason for doing what we're doing. يعني مثلا أنا بكتب كتاب عن الهجرة. طب ما أنا مهاجر.
عندك البايث ده already كده لازم يتحط.
أنا already دخلت في المجال ده عشان عايز أعرف حاجة. عندي سؤال, all consuming سؤال that I need answers to. But why do I need answers to it? Yes, intellectually it's stimulating. It's something I want to learn about. But I have a personal investment in it. For Egypt migrations, in a sense, is an extension of that. I have a personal motivation to engage my society, to engage my community, to change the narrative. And Egypt migrations is an extension of that. It's a way to have people interact and engage with their history, with their society, with their experiences, and to debate these things publicly. It is a neutral forum, so we won't say no to somebody who wants to express a different opinion. We have limits. We do not accept inflammatory and racist or culturally insensitive comments and reports and what have you. But at the same time, we're very transparent about that. It's on our website. Like we tell you right on the homepage what we stand for, what our values are. And I personally think that everything we do is political. There is no such thing as an apolitical position. Choosing to be apolitical or choosing to avoid being drawn into politics is a political decision.
Yeah.
So yes, Egypt migrations is political. It's political in that it is choosing to be a forum for people to express their points of view. It is choosing to be welcoming and inclusive. And it is choosing to advocate for the inclusion of our histories and the recognition of our complex realities.
Mm.
I am not just Egyptian. I'm not just Canadian. I'm not just Coptic. I am not just a man. I am not just bearded. I am all of these things. And how I choose to express these things will shift over time. It'll shift over context, just like we began, right? All the way at the beginning about identity.
Yeah.
أنا مصري أكتر في كندا من أنا مصري في مصر. That matters because I make choices. We all make choices. And so why do we make these choices? Who are we as Egyptians? Who are we as Copts? Why do we act a certain way in this context? Why do we vote conservative? Why do we vote liberal? Like all of these questions matter, and reflecting on these questions matters, and preserving that history matters. That's what Egypt migrations is.
Man, I love how you explained everything. صراحة إنه yeah, I definitely get a lot of that لما بخش على migrations بس إن أسمعها منك برضه it's more detailed with it matters. It's really important ومن البرسبكتيف الشخص اللي جاي من مصر طبعا it's very important للأجانب إن هم يشوفوا ده وإن هم يفهموا ده ويفهموا كل اللي أنت بتقوله ده. برسبكتيف كمان الشخص اللي في مصر اللي بيشوف ده إنه يعرف إنه عندنا مشكلة في مصر وهي إن فاكرين إن إحنا كلنا حاجة واحدة أو كل مجموعة هم حاجة واحدة، كل الأقباط هم حاجة واحدة، كل المسلمين كلنا حاجة واحدة، أو كل المصريين في الآخر عندهم نفس الطموح ونفس الأهداف ونفس الأفكار ونفس الأيديولوجي. وده مش صح خالص خالص. إحنا مختلفين وزي ما أنت قلت بالظبط. أنت دلوقتي مصري ومصري كندي عايش في كندا، عايش في ريتشموند هيل صح؟
Richmond Hill.
ريتشموند هيل. بس انت حاجات كتير في حياتك ممكن تتغير والايدنتي ممكن تتغير. I have these arguments مع اصحابي كتير انه مش خلاص يعني هم انت مصري ودي الايدنتي وحاجه جزء من حياتك. بس هي ازاي انت مصري دي بتتغير كتير جدا، بتتغير طول الوقت. و we have to accept that we have to see that عشان ما تحسش ان انت لوحدك، ما تحسش ان انت الوحيد اللي بتمر بهذه التجربه الكبيره جدا اللي هي a migration experience او whatever. وفاكر ان انت بس الوحيد اللي مش بتعاني بس بتعدي بالحوارات دي. ناس كتير عايشين بافكار مختلفه وبطرق مختلفه. و I think it's so great ان انتوا بتوروا ده على migration. و if it's just gonna add a little bit to the narrative 1% من narrative, I think that's important for a lot of people to see ويتعلموا منه.
And
Yeah.
I do think that there are people who support it and who identify with what the work that we're doing and see its importance and motivate us to keep going. And we're trying to grow, we're trying to expand, we're taking on new people, we are doing things we've never done before, engaging with publishers to write book reviews, engaging with different elements of Egypt's migrant communities all over the world. Getting more submissions from Europe, and adding, more and more to our digital space as we go. There's no telling. One thing that I've done from the beginning is let things grow organically. I don't put limits. I do put limits on like who we are, what we stand for, why we're doing what we're doing. That's in terms of output, in terms of the kinds of things that you'll see from Egypt migrations. Don't be surprised if we produce something that you didn't think we were doing. Like this is a organization focused on our archives and on history and on education. Then just this Friday, we released a book review about a chef in Mississauga, his latest cookbook.
هو حبيبي eat حبيبي
eat حبيبي eat. Right? And so we're doing these things because we're engaging with culture. And culture is ever shifting. And so we try to be representative of Egypt's migrants and their experiences and what they're doing in the world. So there's I think the greatest thing is there's no limits on what Egypt migrations can be. We've let go of all of the limitations. It's no longer a Coptic only thing. It's no longer a Canadian only thing. It's no longer a history only thing. Egypt migrations is global. It can resonate with anyone, and it can hopefully speak for anyone and help to promote the views of people who feel silenced, who feel marginalized, who don't feel like they're being heard. And we're not here to like take the microphone and speak for them. No, we're here to just amplify people's voices. Um, and that's what I'm really like excited about. And I really think that it's new, it's unique in that space. It's doing something that I've never seen before. And so I'm hopeful that it will continue to grow.